Welcome back, folks. Roger Turner is here. He is, of course, the president of United Mutual. Yesterday they had their monthly meeting, and Roger, a pretty long meeting, made longer because there was a couple recesses. We put a brief recess because that's just exactly what we have that on our graphic, and I don't know if brief was quite the word for it. I think the first one was about 50 minutes long. Then you came back, settled the main topic that was being discussed, and then you had a lunch for about 30 minutes, and then came back and then quickly kind of breezed through the rest of the meeting.
And after that, we went to executive session.
Yes. So it didn't end for you guys there.
So we were there for a long time.
Late, right? All right. Well, of course, the main topic of discussion really over the past few months has been the rentals. And that, of course, was the main topic yesterday. And you guys went ahead and had a motion for a couple things that were both passed, but they have a requirement to wait 30 days. And as you said right before we got on here, in reality, it's going to be longer than that because your next board meeting is less than 30 days away. So in a sense, these are almost close to 60 days. Let's talk about this. The first resolution was ratifying qualifiers for subleasing manners. And I would imagine that a lot of people really don't quite understand what the qualifiers mean or are. And maybe you could kind of elaborate on that.
Well, I I think it would be helpful if we kind of went back a little bit. First of all, at last month's meeting, a resolution was passed to essentially rescind everything associated with leasing. And a legal opinion was given by our corporate counsel that resolution would take us back to before any of the leasing related resolutions were involved, and would mean that there would essentially be no leasing.
And this goes back to 1984.
Yeah, except by specific individual board approval on each case. So the board requested from the corporate counsel that the motion be restated. Restated in such a way that it would be legal and achieve what was intended from the motion to begin with, essentially the 12-month renewable lease.
Right.
At the same time, it was included that this motion identify what we call qualifiers, if you will. Qualifiers are really the various things that need to be considered and met by those people that are leasing. And I can speak about some of those. So anyway, what you just read was the motion that was on the agenda yesterday that addressed those issues. It restated the original motion and attached to that motion were these various qualifiers. And these qualifiers are not something new, because that's another limitation the board has to be careful with because of the California law that you can't add new restrictions. But so these are all existing requirements, and they've been on the books before.
For subleasing?
Yes.
So what was on the books for all these years when you could only lease up to 6 months? Those qualifiers remain.
All the other qualifiers essentially remain. For example, I'll just give you a couple of them here. That there is a 20% cap. That means that no more than 20% of the units in United can be leased at any one time. Okay. There's a prohibition that you can't lease for less than 30 days. Okay. The board would like to have, all these are to have some reasonable control. They're not looking for weekend type of situations. Exactly. We've always had a prohibition on a member owning more than one unit, and that continues. In other words, somebody couldn't buy 10 and lease all 10 of them. There's a requirement that if a member is delinquent, for example, in their payment, their monthly payments, well, then they are not allowed to lease. There's obviously the age requirement. It applies to the lessee just the same as it does to the member. And it is a yearly renewable thing. Every year, the member should return, and with the form to qualify the lessee for
Another year.
another 12 months or
okay.
whatever that might be. And
Okay.
there's a number of them, and I will say, obviously, not everybody's going to remember every one of these things, but these are all placed. This whole resolution is on the website,
Okay.
and copies are available if they would either call or stop in at the general manager's office. The secretary there can advise them or provide a copy, whatever the most convenient thing is.
Okay. And do you know offhand what, even now with the 6-month restriction, approximately what percentage of leases are out there?
Yes, it's only around 3%.
Okay, so that 20% cap
Is a significant.
you got a long
change.
way to go before you have to tell people, sorry, you can't be leasing this out, we've reached our cap.
Well, yes, it's interesting, Ken. That's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
People have had this right to lease for a long time, and so that's why I think I mentioned it before. It's significant that you wonder why more people haven't taken advantage of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to do that, obviously, and there's a whole bunch of reasons, but these are personal reasons of the members, and
Right.
I'm not going to judge.
So the second part of this, so to speak, it was another line item, but still of the major discussion, entertain motion to rescind the otherwise delete the resolution which you alluded to, U-8484, in its entirety. And this, of course, goes back, and as you mentioned, last meeting is when you first discussed this. There was, one of the opinions was, well, does this take us back to now not leasing at all, or going back to what it was in 1984? I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure what it was back then, but, and of course you reevaluated that.
Yeah, Ken, I'm glad you brought that up again because it was challenged by some of the members of the board, and as a result of that, they authorized getting a second legal opinion, which is really what caused the long meeting yesterday. Is that legal opinion was received. Wasn't received at the beginning of the meeting, but it was received in the course of the meeting, and so the board recessed to take a look at that legal opinion, and as a result of that, then they came back and proceeded to approve the resolution as it had been restated. So that is really what happened. And of course, as you indicated earlier, now there is a period of time in which that will be there for people to comment on whatever they like. If there is no substantive change prior to the April 9th board meeting, then if it's passed, then it will become the law. I think
Okay.
that the significant thing about this is, of course, it impacts everybody.
Yes, it does.
It's a full united membership thing, and it is also something that is irreversible because of the California law.
Right. Yeah, that was my understanding of it. Or, once it's in place, it's there. And could you ever, if a future board wanted to, if they wanted to reset up restrictions again, could they do that and have it just apply going forward to new members, or they couldn't even do that? Or is that still, we don't know yet?
Ken, that's a good question, and I think you are right, but there's been so many legal issues on this.
I'm not a lawyer. Are you a lawyer? No, so we don't know.
No, and so I'm gonna, that will be something that will come in the future. There's another thing I thought was important. There was an amendment offered to this motion before it was passed, And that amendment was to send it to the full membership for a vote.
Yes.
And there was discussion about that, and that amendment was defeated. So it is not going out to the full membership.
All right.
So,
So this is all as far as the qualifiers. Is this what you have here? And this is on the website. So if people want to go ahead and
this is the full resolution.
okay. Yes, I know. It was read yesterday in full.
There are actually 15 of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we need to read all of them.
No, but they are there, and this
yeah.
is something that everyone who may want to sublease their unit, they need to read, they need to understand.
Well, I think it's important, that people understand. Again, these qualifiers, I use that term, are not new. I think many people are aware of the key ones, but they may well be interested in taking a look at the others as well. It's again, the effort obviously has been over the years for the board to try and manage reasonable control.
Right, exactly.
On the subleasing.
Yeah, and that's
for
one of the reasons people move in here.
Sure, that is correct.
Now, this has been going on for a while, and you've managed the waters very well, sitting up front there. And
well, thank you.
You've done that very well, and I know it's been a little bit of a trying time, but you know what? The procedures went on as they should, and in a good manner. And although there were different opinions, people weren't yelling at each other or anything like that. So it was well done. And people who maybe watched over the past couple months, and of course you can watch this. Watch the meeting from yesterday. You can watch it tomorrow at 1:30 and the next week at 6. It really gives you a good idea on how a board is run and when the procedures. There are times when it may seem trite, but these are the procedures that have to be done. And the fact that you guys took a recess yesterday, it needed to be done so you could assess the new opinion.
Well, there's more actually, Ken. Legal opinions need to be considered in closed session.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So we really couldn't do it there in the open session without asking all the people to leave. So instead of that, we left and simply went to another room. But so there's a lot of rules and regulations as to how these board meetings are conducted. And I think that your point was well taken. There were good examples of that yesterday, and it helps us on the board.
Yeah, it
and
does.
I think it helps the community. It's just good for everyone. As you know, there's a big book of Robert's rules and all these other things, and most of which I couldn't begin to remember. But nevertheless, I think generally we follow those pretty good.
Yeah.
And so
we get. You do. And I want to tell people that as far as the playback goes, during the long recess, we paused our tape. So as you can see there, the length of the replay, and I put there without recess, is 2 hours and 54 minutes. Had we, I think on one of our things that we recorded on, we did record the entire thing, the entire recess part, but we didn't want the people during the replay watching something that says brief recess for 45 minutes. So we're not cutting anything out. It's just we often do that when we know there's going to be a lengthy recess there. We'll pause our tape so when we have playback, you'll see it go to recess, and then magically about a minute later it'll come back again.
Well, Ken, I think it's appropriate to state that I think that the people in the village are fortunate that you do this job. I mean, I understand we all have a job to do and everything, but you do it well.
Thank you.
It is recorded well. It's there. It's publicized for how long it is, when it will be replayed. So these are good things, so that people have, in addition to those that come, people that either can't or don't want to come, they have that opportunity to see it.
Many ways to see it, yeah.
It is a very good service.
Thank you very much. One other point that you touched on a lot of points, but you explained very well, is about the appointments to the Candidate Information Committee. And I think it's it was important for you to point out that these people are just providing information. Some people were asking, well, do they advise? Do they handpick the candidates? No. They provide basic information, how to go about it.
Yes, it used to be called the nominating committee. And as a nominating committee, obviously, they interviewed and essentially vetted the candidates.
Right.
Trying to make recommendations to the board as to, well, here are the candidates we've reviewed, et cetera, et cetera. The California law no longer allows that. So they are not doing that. They are strictly an information committee. What is important is a couple of the members of that committee are former board members. Because if you were a candidate or if you were considering to be a candidate, it's very helpful to talk to somebody who has
it certainly
has
is.
served.
Yeah.
And in addition, all of them have experience on various committees, so together they know a lot about the governance of the community. So they are very helpful. Another thing, they put out the information about the timing of the election, the application for candidates, and I think maybe one of the most, and announcements in the Globe too, by the way. I think one of the most important things they do is they have a what do I call it? Meet the candidates meeting, which you televise.
Right, we do.
And that is hosted by one of those people on that committee. And it is simply an open meeting where certain questions are asked and the audience has the opportunity to ask. Everyone has the opportunity to meet these people. They can attend in person, or again, they can watch it on television. It is a great service because so many times people, they don't know these people.
Right.
And it's an opportunity for them to meet, literally, the candidates. That's a very important function that is provided by this committee.
Yeah, we do that. I think that meeting's held in late summer,
Yes,
late August, something like that. I always forget the exact dates, but it's around that. It's
Whatever.
also the time we present all the budget meetings, so
Oh,
we've
that's
got a
another-
lot.
that's
There's
another
like
thing.
a series of times there where we go from 3 meetings a month that we're showing to about 6 per month, but it's all good information.
You're quite
And as Roger said, your chance to watch the meeting, you get a few chances. You can always watch it live. You can watch it tomorrow as far as the United meeting goes, and you can see there at 1:30 and then February 20th at 6 p.m. So your chance to look at this meeting, and as they all say, as I know you've said many times before, you like the people to attend the meeting as well, and also the committee meetings.
Sure. That's where you really find out where things kind of get initiated, the official discussions, if you will.
Yeah.
The recommendations of the committees all come to the board for final approval. They go through the finance committee. There's a relatively defined, well-defined, routine structure
Yes, there
of
is.
governance. It's not super complicated, but it does require, participation, attendance at these things, but that's the way you find out.
Well, thank you for attending our show today.
Well,
and
thank
giving
you for-
us
thank you
some
for the
clarity
invitation.
on those two very important, a couple of the most important motions in a long time. So thank
Yes,
you
that's
very
right.
much. Folks, again, you can see when the meeting will be replayed there. Roger, thank you very much for
Thank you.
joining us, and we will join you after this break. Okay?